You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
That's tricky.
It is when I'm not there.
It's Tuesday, October 15th, and Sarah's wrestling with demons, or
Yes.
at least the kind that deflate tires on cars.
This is true.
So, graciously joining us by remote from home. It sounds just like you're right here in the studio.
From my spare bedroom, it's fine.
Well, it is Tuesday, and we have some good topics on deck today. We're going to take a look at the October issue of the Lutheran Witness. Excited to do that. Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
There's just a slight delay.
Oh, that's sad.
It's all good. In studio with us today, Dr. Kevin Armbrust, interim managing editor of the Lutheran Witness. Dr. Armbrust, thanks so much for joining us in studio.
Thanks for having me.
It is, we're like halfway into the month, and I'm so sorry. I'm just now getting to my October issue, but great issue. Tell us about the themes of this October issue of the Lutheran Witness. I started to say theme, but it seems like there are themes as I was reading through it.
It happens as you start writing about things. You just keep going. And so this month we're really focusing on the saints, the whole concept of how do Lutherans view saints in the church, and then that always spills over into some Reformation issues for us in October. So as we look at even going back to the Reformation, we look at some of the saints of the Reformation, some of the people that really you might not know as well, but really helped the Reformation move along with Luther and Melanchthon and other guys you know better.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the stories that we get to read about in this issue. There's some really good ones.
Yeah, and probably the highlight of the magazine, as far as from a writing point of view, is Rachel Bomberger just wrote a fantastic piece called "With My Lost Saints," and it really is it's something you should read. It's just well written, it's well thought out, and it really is a great piece. And I know she's going to maybe show up and talk about things.
She's going to jump in here in the second segment and share that just little teaser. You might want to get out a box of tissues.
That's right.
It's a good article.
It is.
Great article.
Really well written.
Did you, as you were editing, did you have to bring out the tissues?
No, not at all.
Because you have no emotions.
That's right. Because when I edit, I do not bring my emotions with me. But
You didn't listen to Mental Health Monday yesterday, apparently.
I did not. I was editing.
We need some emotions.
I was editing the November issue of the Lutheran Witness.
That's right. You're already like halfway into Advent, probably.
Yes, we are working on December. And so November is almost ready to go to print, and we're working on December already in February.
That's the joy of print, isn't it?
Isn't it fun?
I mean, even here, even in at KFUO, starting to work on Advent and Christmas and Epiphany programming and trying to get ready for that. Listening to Christmas music during my spare time, trying to prep and add some new Christmas music for the upcoming season this year. And excited to do that, but thinking ahead. Now let's think back. We're going back to the Reformation. You pointed out that we get to learn about some of the saints of the Reformation that are perhaps less familiar. Who do we learn about in this issue?
So we have some real brief writings, but some nice summaries about John the Constant, who you can read about how he helped Luther, and from kind of a secular point of view, but as his prince, he kind of helped him. And then Lucas Cranach, who is kind of known as the painter of the Reformation, right? And then also Robert Barnes, who was actually not a German guy, but was still very important in the Reformation. So we get to read about those people, and mixed in there, you kind of meet some other people too that you might have heard of or might not have heard of. And
I'm familiar with Cranach. Now, Jonathan the Constant. Is that correct? Now, how do you get names like this? Because I want a cool name like that.
Well,
how do you get a name like that?
Unfortunately,
I'd probably be Andy the Annoying, but
unfortunately, I think you have to be dead. Which is
okay.
Which is
well,
really
I'll hang
frustrating.
on for a while.
But when you are in that state, then we might thrust a name upon you.
That state.
But in his case, he was constant because of his faith, and he stood firm. He was one of the confessors at Augsburg who stood for the confession of the Lutheran Church, and so it really is a reminder of his faith.
Now, in the film, they depict them not as standing, but kneeling.
Kneeling, right, because they were ready to have their
heads cut off,
heads lopped off if so happened, as we all are, right? Yeah. As we stand before the world and confess our faith, come what may.
Yeah. Now we're also talking about the saints in this issue. What does that mean for Lutherans? Aren't saints Catholic?
Well, I'm not going to say there are no saints in the Catholic Church, but yeah. So this is always an issue. That's kind of a Catholic word to us. But the amazing thing is, it's not. It's actually in Ephesians chapter 1. Paul says that he is writing to the saints in Ephesus, and so when we look at the word from a biblical point of view, the word saint simply means holy ones. And when we understand this scripturally, it means those who have been made holy through the blood of Christ. And when Luther grew up, certainly in Catholicism and with the notion of praying to saints and even worshiping saints in some ways, as he grew up and started reading the scriptures and teaching theology, he said, wait a minute, nowhere in scripture are we supposed to pray to the saints. And this whole worship of the saints kind of wasn't what he was reading in the New Testament, but there are saints in the Bible, and they seem to be a real blessing to the church. So he said, instead of worshiping or praying to them, we should thank God for them. We should look at them as examples of staying faithful until death. And we should also look at them and emulate their lives of service to the church and to the world. And so saints do have an important role in our life. Oddly enough, today is the funeral for somebody that many of us consider to be a saint in our lives, Dr. Norman Nagel, who was an example to many people who learned theology at the seminaries or throughout our synod in other ways at Valpo and other places, as somebody who manifestly taught the Word of God throughout his entire life. And many people looked at him and learned the way that he helped us hear the gospel and helped us communicate the gospel. So this is somebody that we would consider kind of a living saint, right? Somebody who lived during our lifetime, and now that he's in glory, yet we still look at him, we thank God for his life, we thank God for his teaching, and we also learn to emulate a saint like that, where keep me faithful unto death, and let me learn to live my life reflecting the love of Christ.
So the contributor this month, one of the contributors that walks us through that is Dr. Kolb.
Yes.
Professor Emeritus from Concordia Seminary in St. Louis.
St. Louis. And Robert Kolb is such a treasure to our church, such a blessing, as really a world-class scholar in many areas, especially in the Reformation. But he has the unique gift of being able to communicate really difficult ideas very simply and ways that all of us can understand. So Dr. Kolb is always a blessing to hear from and to read.
So dig into this gem in the October issue, taking a look at Called by the Gospel, Kept in the Faith, Luther's View of the Saints. That's Dr. Kolb's article in the October issue. We have just about 2 minutes left. Saints, Reformation, any other themes or any other contributor you want to dig into?
President Harrison, as always, just really is a blessing to read what he writes and what he's thinking. He's such a pastor at heart. And this month you really get to hear his pastor's heart as he talks about and encourages us to continue to teach hymns to our children and to continue to live in the church with hymnody and the liturgy and the church's song always on our lips. And to remind us that this is not just for us when we're in church, but this is something we carry with us through our entire lives. And it's really such a nice pastoral letter from our president to encourage all of us in this.
And I really appreciate that that he points out that this isn't just this is for all,
right?
All Christians, all. And when talking to Lutherans and LCMS, it says no matter how traditional your background is, or less than traditional what you're singing today, don't neglect to pass on these great hymns to your children. They can be sung in a variety of ways. They can be sung, but teach you're teaching the faith when you teach these hymns, this great hymnody, and passing this on. And there's great value in singing as well. And we talk about this all the time here on the coffee hour because Sarah likes singing.
Right.
I do.
We love hymns here on the coffee hour.
Sure.
And there's just great value in that, not only because you're teaching great theology in it, but in so doing, it's in singing it, you're I don't know. You're the musician here.
Yeah,
you're music expert with the degree in music. What am I trying to say here? Because I can't articulate it.
Well, it's the church's tradition that singing the glories of God is such a blessing that God gave to us, that when we sing, Luther says that he who sings prays twice, and there's these kind of quotes, but it's the whole idea that God constantly, from the beginning to the end, there's singing in the Bible. The book of Psalms obviously is a singing book, but even the book of Revelation is really a singing book. This is something we're going to do in heaven. We're going to sing. Mm-hmm. And this is the gift that God has given us now, to sing his praises and know that song will literally never end.
Last night in family devotions, reading from the Bible to my son, and I told him this is the song that John's father sang when John was to be born. And I was reading it, and he said, "Well, Daddy, sing it." I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to sing that. Yeah, I don't know the tune." He just didn't grasp that. Oh,
yeah, isn't that great?
Everybody sings, and if his dad sang a song, then you should know it too, Dad.
Right.
So apparently, I need to go learn the tune to that song. Well, thank you so much for being our guest this morning, Kevin. Always a joy to talk with you about the Lutheran Witness, and commend to our listeners the reading of the October issue, The Communion of Saints, The Forgiveness of Sins. Thanks for being on the Coffee Hour today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Eddie Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
Stick around for more of the Coffee Hour.